Hey friend, you're listening to Shutdown, Not Shaken, a special mini-series of the At Ease podcast. I am your host, Cristin Candice, and this space is where we explore what it means to create calm, courage, and connection, especially in uncertain times. The government may be shut down, but you don't have to be. And today, we're talking about homecoming. So let's take a deep breath and find our ease. I saw a post floating around online where someone named Ari Fletcher, I really don't know who that is, but I saw it on Instagram, it was on the Shade Room, who was asking why grown adults are still going to homecoming. And people are dragging her. The question itself is laughable, given the word homecoming is literally about coming home. Especially if you ever attended an HBCU homecoming, you already know. It's not just an event, it's a return. See, some people think homecoming is about parties, the bands, and tailgates, and all of that is true. It's great. But for many of us, homecoming is more sacred than that. It's really a reminder of who we are and where we belong. So today, I want to talk about why home matters, why we all need a home base, not just a physical place, but a community and a source of love and grounding. And if you don't have that yet, how you can begin to find or create it. And you're probably wondering, what the heck does this have to do with the government being shut down? But when people ask me why I'm so calm, why I'm not a nervous wreck, why I'm not going out and applying for a kabillion jobs, a big part of that is because I know that I'm loved. And even if I use up all my savings, lose my rental income because my tenants are on Section 8, or had to completely start over, I know I can go home. My parents' house, that's a physical safety net. I know that me and my children are going to be fed, sheltered, and cared for until we get back on our feet, if need be. And I think that kind of security is priceless. And it's not really about the money. It's about knowing that love and belonging exist beyond my productivity. And that's a sense of ease that I think many of us don't realize we're missing, or some of us may have forgotten that we actually have access to. So home is the place or the people where you can just exhale, where you don't have to prove your worth to belong. And for many of us, our HBCUs gave us that feeling long before we were able to articulate it. They were sanctuaries. They were spaces where we could be our full selves, free from code switching, free from performance. For 4 years, for some of us, maybe a little more, we lived in communities that really poured into us, where we poured into each other. So when we go home for homecoming, it's not just about the nostalgia. It's about nourishment. So I was trying to figure out how I can talk about all that I get and all that we have access to at homecoming through something that's universal. So I'm going to do that through the 5 love languages and how homecoming, or any kind of homecoming, any kind of home base, can meet every one of them. Okay, so let's start with words of affirmation. At homecoming, I heard things like, "Oh, girl, you look good. You look the same." Or, "I've been listening to your podcast and seeing your content. Keep going, girl. You're doing it, girl. Are you a coach? I think you should be an executive coach." Or I heard, "Thank you so much for pouring into me all those years ago. I didn't realize how important it was and how you and other Black women helped shape me into who I am today." It's affirmation. It's not just small talk. It's being seen. In a world that often tries to make us invisible, that kind of recognition for some people can be really healing. So I was a RA in college. And this year, my last group of freshmen were returning to celebrate a milestone anniversary. My last group of like little sisters and little brothers were all there. And seeing the things that they're doing out in the world, and also being able to see and watch them affirm each other, knowing that I was a part of that was a reminder of like, oh, girl, you've been doing this for a long time. Number 2, quality time. Homecoming gives us the gift of presence, time with our day ones. We sit under tents, we take long walks across the yard, we can stand around in parking lots just catching up, no rush, no work emails, and just connection. And it's not just about your old friends. When you come to homecoming, you make new friends, new big brothers, new little sisters, new family. There are people that I have met at homecomings 5, 10 years after I graduated who I talk to on a regular basis, who I know their families, I know their children. That community can be the gift that keeps on giving. It keeps expanding. It keeps growing. It reminds me of like when you have children and oh, you love your child so much that some people don't think that they could have the capacity to love more. I have twins, so that wasn't an issue for me, but your love just grows. It just grows. It's infinite. It's abundant. And so is your community. Number 3, acts of service. When you walk around, when you get to the tailgate and you got your piece of fried fish, you drinking your blue juice, you just did the Tamia line dance, you swag surfed. Do you ever stop to think about the amount of work that went into creating that experience for you? That is an act of service. People get up at the crack of dawn to pack things up, to get to the school, to set up in their spot, to put dance floors together, to put out chairs, to get the grill going, to make sure the grease is hot, to make sure that the oil is perfect, just so you can be fed. That is a labor of love. One of my closest friends, this is her 3rd year doing a tailgate. And I watch her get up at 6:30 in the morning on that Saturday. Sometimes they're catering, sometimes they choose to cook. There's food, there's laughter, there's chairs, and yes, a little bourbon lemonade. But what they're doing is community work. They are creating joy and creating space for us. Number 4, receiving gifts. Homecoming is full of small gifts. It's sharing a plate, a drink, keeping somebody's cup full, literally, purchasing that piece of paraphernalia from an alum, or even just someone remembering what your favorite song was and playing it during the set. They might seem like small gestures, but they remind us. They take us back to a place. They literally physically feed us and keep us full. And it just shows us that gifts don't have to be grand. They can be small, they can make a difference, and they can be meaningful. And then lastly, number 5, physical touch. There's a study from the University of North Carolina that found that we need at least 7 hugs a day to maintain emotional balance. Hugs release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which lowers blood pressure, reduces stress, and strengthens immunity. And if you've been to homecoming, you know you're going to get 7 hugs before noon. Every embrace, every dap, every picture with an arm around your friend's shoulder. It's medicine. It's communal healing in motion. And so no matter what your preference is, no matter which love language makes you feel full, you're going to get your needs met when you go home. So when people say things like, why are grown adults still going to homecoming? I say because adults need home too. We need spaces that remind us who we were before the burnout. We need communities that remind us We're more than our titles, our jobs, or our paychecks. We need to remember what it feels like to be known, loved, and celebrated. Not because of what we've done, but because of who we are. And that's what homecoming does. That's what home does. When we go home, we fill our cups so we can return to the world a little fuller, a little braver, a little softer. And that's not childish. It's a privilege. But we live in the real world, and I know that not everybody has a home base. Some people grew up without that safety net and no place to land if things fall apart. And if that's you, I want you to hear me that you deserve to belong somewhere. And if you don't have that kind of community, it's not too late to find it or build it. You can start with a question. What makes me feel safe, seen, and supported? How can I show up for others in the same way I want people to show up for me? What spaces make me feel most alive, and how can I nurture more of that? How can I practice being open enough to be known, even if it feels risky? Finding your people might take time, but it is worth it. Whether it's through a church, a social club, a sorority, a virtual space, your local community, home is built through intention and love. And sometimes you become someone's home simply by showing up consistently with kindness. I also want to pause to talk about coming home to yourself. Because sometimes the first place we need to return to isn't a house or a campus or a city, it's us. We spend so much of our adult lives performing, adjusting, and managing versions of ourselves that fit into spaces that were never designed with us in mind. And by the time we realize it, we've drifted so far from who we really are that home feels unfamiliar. But coming home to yourself means remembering who you were before the world told you who you needed to be. It's noticing those moments when you feel most alive, most honest, and most at ease, and letting that version of you lead more often. It looks like checking in with your body and asking, what do I need right now, not to perform, but to be well? How can I make choices that honor who I am, not just who I'm expected to be? What small acts help me return to the version of myself that feels grounded, free, and whole? Sometimes that means saying no. Sometimes it means taking a long walk in silence, journaling, or wearing your hair the way you like it, even if no one else gets it. Coming home to yourself is a daily practice. It's sitting in your truth long enough to remember that you are your own sanctuary. And when you can be at home within yourself, it makes every other home, your family, your friends, your community, that connection much deeper and much more authentic. Because if you can't find peace in your own company, it's hard to fully receive it anywhere else. And then there's some of us who have a home in a community, family, or circle, but we don't go as often as we could. We wait until our cup is completely empty before we choose to return. But home is not just a place to retreat to when life falls apart. That's actually an act of taking. It's a place to recharge so that it doesn't. But in recharging yourself and showing up before you're completely depleted allows you to also recharge others. You don't have to hit burnout before you call your mom your best friend, your line sister, or your people. We say things like, I'll go home when I have time, or I don't want to be a burden. But community doesn't see you as a burden. They see you as family. So if it's been a while since you've been home, literally or metaphorically, go before you need to. Go while you still have energy to give and space to receive. Let your people pour into you before you hit empty. Ask yourself, what keeps me from returning to the spaces that refill me? How might my relationships deepen if I showed up before things got hard? What would it look like to make rest and reconnection a rhythm, not a rescue mission? Don't wait for crisis. Go home because you can, not just because you must. Now we have to talk about something a bit heavier. The reality that our sacred spaces are under attack. Our HBCUs have always been sanctuaries and a safe space for us. There were generations of Black students have gone to learn, lead, and love freely. But recently, those spaces have been threatened, not just metaphorically, but literally. And after the murder of Charlie Kirk, we saw a wave of threats against HBCUs across the country, even when it had nothing to do with us. And even more recently, there have been shootings near and on our campuses during homecoming. So when I talk about home, this is part of it too. These institutions, our HBCUs, are more than schools. They are living, breathing symbols of what freedom looks like when we create it for ourselves. So when we say we're going home for homecoming, it's not just for fun. It's actually an act of protection and preservation. It's a way of saying we will not let our sanctuaries be erased. So here are some things that we can do to protect them. One is show up, both physically and financially, supporting your alma mater or your local HBCU. We can speak up. When we see narratives that diminish or endanger our spaces, counter them with truth. And stand guard, whether that means mentoring, volunteering, or simply being present. Your presence matters for future generations. You can ask yourself, how can I use my voice, resources, or time to protect the spaces that shaped me? What would it look like for me to become a steward of the communities that once helped me? Because protecting home isn't just about going back. It's about making sure that there's still a home to go back to. When I talk about home, I'm not just talking about where we go. I'm also talking about where we come from. My grandmother attended Storr College in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, one of the earliest institutions of higher learning for formerly enslaved people, founded in 1867. Storr closed in 1955, shortly after Brown versus Board of Education was passed, when the country began to integrate schools. But every summer, on the first weekend in August, the alumni and their families would return. And they called it a reunion, but it was really a homecoming, a sacred gathering of people who remembered what that school stood for: education, dignity, and freedom. Even after the buildings stopped holding classes, the spirit of Storr never died. It lived through those reunions, in those hugs, the hymns, the laughter, and the stories passed down from generations. And when I think about my grandmother standing on those same grounds year after year, celebrating not just what she achieved, but what her community built together, I realized that home is also a legacy. It's what we inherit, what we preserve, and what we pass on. And that is part of why going home matters, because every time we show up, whether it's at a tailgate, a family reunion, or a long drive back to where our people are from, we're honoring the ones who came before us. We're saying you did not labor in vain, that your home still stands. So ask yourself, what stories of home are rooted in my family's history? How do I honor the sacrifices of those who built the spaces I now call home? What traditions can I carry forward so that the next generation remembers where they belong? When I left homecoming this year, I thought about all the things: the hugs, the laughter, the love, but also the responsibility. Home fills us, yes, but it really calls us. It asks us to remember that the same spaces that restore us also need our care and need our protection. And I think that's what going home is really about. Not just receiving, but returning the energy that built you. It's an exchange between you and the people who made you who you are. So yes, Adults absolutely belong at homecoming because going home isn't about age, it's about alignment. It's about refueling your spirit so you can face what's next. It's about remembering that even in a world that feels unstable, you have a place or can create one where love lives. If you already have that kind of home, return to it often. Let it feed you. And if you don't, do the work to find it or build it. Because home isn't just a place, it's a practice. It's the feeling of knowing that no matter what happens out there, there's somewhere or someone who will always welcome you back. Take a deep breath, go home when you need to, and if the government is still shut down, I'll see you tomorrow.